A sheriff's deputy in rural Oklahoma pulled onto a gravel lot behind a shuttered auto shop because a neighbor had called in something strange. An ambulance. Parked there for weeks. Lights off, engine cold, the words Rescue 14 still stenciled across the side panel in faded red paint. He figured it was abandoned, maybe stolen, maybe stripped for scrap. He knocked on the back doors expecting silence and got a woman's voice instead. Behind those doors was not an abandoned rescue vehicle, it was a home. Two people were living inside a decommissioned ambulance that had cost them exactly $500, and every system inside it, the air conditioning, the electrical wiring, even the bed frame, had been built for saving lives before it was rebuilt for living one. By the end of this video, you are going to understand why an ambulance, of every possible structure a person could convert into a home, might be the smartest $500 purchase in the entire country. This is the story of Derek and Maya Whitfield, and how a vehicle designed to rescue one person at a time ended up rescuing two people the housing system had already stopped looking for. Derek and Maya had been together for 6 years before the eviction notice came. He worked as a diesel mechanic at a shop outside of Guthrie. She worked as a certified nursing assistant at a memory care facility 20 minutes away. 2 incomes, a 1-bedroom apartment, and a rent number that climbed by $200 in a single renewal cycle. That was the number that broke it. When the shop cut Derek's hours the same month the new lease started, the math stopped working the way it had worked for 6 years straight. What happened next is the part almost nobody talks about when they talk about the housing crisis in this country. Losing the apartment was not the hardest part. Finding a way to stay together was. Every emergency shelter within driving distance of Guthrie separates residents by sex at the door. A man goes to one wing, a woman goes to another. For a single person, that is an inconvenience. For a couple who has already lost the apartment, the car, and most of what they owned, being told to split up to get a bed each night is its own kind of eviction. Derek and Maya chose to stay together. That decision put them outside every system built to catch them. What they built instead, out of a vehicle nobody else wanted, is the reason couples in similar situations across this country are starting to look at government auction sites the same way Derek did on a Tuesday night in his truck, 3 weeks after the lease ended, when he saw a photograph of Rescue 14 and understood exactly what he was looking at. To understand why Derek recognized what he was looking at, you have to go back 9 years, before the diesel shop, before Maya, to the 2 years Derek spent as a volunteer firefighter and emergency medical technician for the small town of Coyle, 20 minutes from where he grew up. Coyle's volunteer department ran exactly 1 ambulance, a used unit the county had bought secondhand from a bigger department nearby. Derek spent 2 years riding in the back of vehicles just like it, learning where the wiring ran, how the roof air conditioning unit was built to drop the temperature of an enclosed metal box in under 10 minutes flat, and how much of what made an ambulance expensive to build had nothing to do with comfort and everything to do with keeping a patient's body at a stable temperature during transport. He left the volunteer department when he needed steadier income and took the diesel mechanic job instead. He never expected that knowledge to matter again. 3 weeks after the eviction, Derek and Maya were sleeping in the cab of his pickup truck in the parking lot of a 24-hour laundromat outside Guthrie, the only spot they had found where nobody asked questions and the restroom stayed unlocked at night. They had tried the shelter in Guthrie first. The intake worker was not unkind. She simply explained the policy. Men on the 2nd floor, women on the 1st, no exceptions, no matter how long a couple had been together. Maya cried in the parking lot afterward, not because the policy was cruel on purpose, but because nobody who wrote it had ever imagined 2 people who needed exactly one thing, to not be separated on top of everything else they had already lost. That was the week Derek started scrolling government surplus auction sites at 2 in the morning, while Maya slept against the passenger window. He was not looking for a house. He did not think a house was possible. He was looking for anything with 4 walls and a door that locked, something cheap enough that the math might actually work for the first time in months. What he found on a county auction listing service was a photograph of a boxy white vehicle with faded red lettering, a dented rear bumper, and a starting bid of $1. The listing described it as a 2011 Ford E450 ambulance, retired from active service after the county upgraded its EMS fleet, sold as is, with a note that the interior had sustained water damage from a roof leak during storage. Most people scrolling that auction site would have kept scrolling. Derek did not. He knew exactly what a 2011 E450 ambulance was worth in parts alone. He knew the roof air conditioning unit was probably still bolted in place, because removing one costs a county more in labor than the unit is worth on the second-hand market. And he knew, better than almost anyone who would ever look at that listing, that water damage to an ambulance box usually means a bad door seal, not a structural problem. He showed Maya the photo at 4 a.m. in the cab of the truck. She looked at it for a long time and asked him one question. "Can you actually fix it?" He said he thought so. She said then bid on it. The auction closed 6 days later. Derek won Rescue 14 for $480, underbid by exactly one other account the entire time it was listed. County pickup required a certified check and a signature transferring the title out of municipal ownership, standard paperwork for any government surplus vehicle. Getting it off the county lot and onto a piece of land was the next problem, and it was solved the way most problems get solved, when you have almost no money left. Derek called a man he used to work alongside on the volunteer department, a retired sheriff's deputy who still ran a small towing business on the side. The tow cost $40 in fuel and a favor owed. Derek drove Rescue 14 the last 2 miles himself once it was off the flatbed, because it turned out the engine still ran. Finding somewhere to park it took longer than finding the ambulance itself. Guthrie's city limits prohibit long-term vehicle occupancy on any residential street, and the county requires a permitted address for any structure connected to utilities. Derek found his way around both problems the same way people in his situation have been finding their way around them for years. He asked. A man named Wendell Cross owned a gravel lot behind a machine shop he had closed 2 years earlier when his knees stopped letting him stand on concrete all day. The lot sat empty, except for weeds and a rusted forklift nobody had bothered to sell. Derek offered to keep the lot mowed, keep an eye on the machine shop overnight, and fix anything on Wendell's own truck that needed fixing, in exchange for a spot behind the building where the ambulance could not be seen from the road. Wendell said yes before Derek finished the sentence. There was no lease. There was a handshake and an understanding that if anyone from the county ever asked, the ambulance was there for repairs. What came next is the part that separates an ambulance from almost every other structure people have converted into a home. Most conversions start with an empty shell and have to build everything from nothing. Derek and Maya started with a shell that had already been engineered for exactly the problem they needed solved. The roof air conditioning unit was still bolted into place, exactly as Derek expected, but the compressor had lost its charge sitting idle for over a year. A recharge kit from an auto parts store cost $60. Derek had the system blowing cold air within a single afternoon, for a total repair cost that would not have covered one night in a cheap motel. The electrical system told the same story. Ambulances are built with a battery isolator that keeps a dedicated house battery charged off the engine alternator without draining the vehicle's starting battery, because paramedics cannot afford a dead battery in the middle of a call. That exact system, designed to keep monitors and radios running during an emergency, was sitting there, ready to run lights, a small refrigerator, and 2 phone chargers instead. Derek added 2 used solar panels he bought for $80 total from a salvage electrician outside Oklahoma City, mounted to the flat reinforced section of the roof that used to hold the light bar, wired through the existing shore power hookup the ambulance already had built in for charging equipment overnight at the station. He did not have to invent a power system. He had to reconnect one that already existed. Insulation was the one place the water damage actually mattered. The leaking door seal had soaked a section of wall paneling behind the rear bench, and that panel had to come out completely, along with the equipment cabinet built into it. Underneath, Derek found factory-installed rigid foam insulation, standard on every ambulance box built, to keep patients at a stable temperature during a transport that could last hours. Most of it was dry and intact. He replaced the ruined section with matching foam board, sealed the new door gasket himself using a kit that cost $18, and added a strip of reflective radiant barrier across the exterior roof panel to knock the peak summer temperature down even further before the air conditioning ever had to work. Water came from the simplest system in the entire build. 2 7-gallon jugs strapped against the wall where a stretcher used to lock into place, refilled twice a week at a public spigot behind the county fairgrounds, feeding a small hand pump sink Derek mounted where an equipment shelf had been removed. A portable camping toilet went into the small compartment that used to hold oxygen tanks. Maya kept the original built-in overhead cabinets exactly where the ambulance manufacturer had put them, because they were already the right size, already bolted to the wall studs, already better built than anything either of them could have salvaged for free. By the 4th week, the fold-down bench that used to lock a stretcher in place had become a bed frame wide enough for 2, built up with plywood Derek cut to fit, and a mattress pad Maya found at a church rummage sale for $12. The cabinet that used to hold trauma dressings held their clothes. The little fold-out desk a paramedic would have used to write a patient report became the table where Maya filled out job applications on a laptop charged entirely by sunlight. Total cost of the entire conversion, from the winning auction bid to the last tube of silicone sealant, came to $640. And the first night the temperature outside hit 104 degrees, the inside of Rescue 14 held steady at 71, cooled by a system the county had already paid to install years before either of them had ever heard the word eviction. 6 weeks into living on Wendell's lot, on a night when the heat index outside had not dropped below 90 degrees even after dark, Derek and Maya were asleep inside Rescue 14, with the roof unit running quietly overhead, when headlights swept across the gravel outside. A neighbor 2 lots over had noticed the ambulance for the first time that week and called it in, certain something was wrong with an EMS vehicle sitting motionless behind a closed machine shop for over a month. The deputy who responded walked the perimeter first, the way he had been trained to, checking for a service tag, checking for signs of a break-in, checking for anything that explained why a rescue unit was parked somewhere it had no business being parked. He knocked on the back doors, expecting to find nothing. Maya answered. For a long moment, neither of them said anything. The deputy looked past her into a space that had a made bed, a small refrigerator humming quietly, curtains in the windows, and a man sitting up on the edge of the bench frame, who the deputy suddenly recognized. Derek had ridden along with this same deputy's older brother on half a dozen calls during his 2 years with the Coyle Volunteer Department, years before either of them expected to see each other again under circumstances like this one. The deputy asked the obvious question first. Whose ambulance is this? Derek told him the truth, all of it, starting with the county auction listing and ending with the night the temperature inside held at 71 degrees while it sat at 104 outside. The deputy stood in the doorway for a long time without saying anything. He was not required to do anything about what he was looking at, beyond filing a report on a suspicious vehicle that had turned out not to be suspicious at all. He looked at the made bed, the solar panels on the roof, the cabinets that used to hold trauma dressings, now holding folded laundry, and he asked one more question before he left. He asked if Wendell knew they were parked back here. Derek said yes, that Wendell had said yes before he even finished asking. The deputy nodded, said he would note the call as resolved, no incident, and turned to leave. Then he stopped at the door and told them something neither of them expected to hear from a man in that uniform that night. He said his own cousin had been living out of a car with her husband for 4 months the year before, for the exact same reason, because every shelter within an hour of her separated couples at the door. He did not offer them a program or a form. He offered them the only thing he actually had, which was silence about a call that had never needed to become a report, and he drove away. That was the closest anyone came to discovering Derek and Maya in the 4 months since the auction closed. It was also the moment that told them something they had suspected, but never said out loud. The system built to help people like them had not failed because nobody in it cared. It had failed because nobody who designed it had ever pictured two people trying to stay together with $500 and a vehicle built for somebody else's emergency. 4 months later, Rescue 14 still sits behind Wendell's machine shop, though it looks less like an ambulance every week. Derek picked up part-time diesel work at a shop 2 towns over, cash jobs at first, then a regular Tuesday and Thursday schedule. Once the owner saw how he handled a transmission problem nobody else in the shop wanted to touch. Maya went back to work at the memory care facility 3 weeks after the auction closed, using Wendell's machine shop address as her mailing address, an arrangement Wendell offered without being asked. The refrigerator that used to hold nothing but a jug of water now holds actual groceries. A small raised bed, made from scrap lumber, sits beside the back doors, growing tomatoes and peppers that Maya waters every evening before the heat breaks. Derek is not the only person who has looked at a decommissioned ambulance and seen a house instead of a scrap vehicle. Government auction forums and off-grid living groups online have a small but growing thread of people doing exactly what Derek did, drawn by the same math he noticed the first night he saw the listing. A retired medical transport vehicle, built to keep a human body stable during the worst hour of someone's life, already comes wired, insulated, and air-conditioned in a way that no shipping container or school bus ever does standard. Nobody had to teach Derek that. 2 years riding in the back of one taught him before he ever needed to know it for himself. The deputy still drives past Wendell's lot on his regular route. He does not stop anymore. Sometimes he lifts 2 fingers off the steering wheel as he passes, the same small gesture he might give any neighbor he recognized, and keeps driving. Rescue 14 still says its old unit number on the side panel faded a little more every season, because Derek never saw a reason to paint over it. It saved somebody's life once, back when it belonged to the county. Derek says it is still doing exactly the same job. It just does it every single night now, instead of only on the nights somebody calls. What Derek and Maya built for $640 raises a question that almost never gets asked out loud in conversations about the housing crisis in this country. Every emergency shelter budget, every transitional housing program, every intake form built by well-meaning people was designed around 2 categories: single adults, families with children. Couples without kids fall into the gap between those 2 categories, and that gap is exactly where Derek and Maya were standing the night the eviction notice arrived. Nobody built a program for them, so they built something else instead, out of a vehicle the county had already paid to engineer for exactly the kind of problem they were facing, just never the kind of problem anyone expected it to solve. Maya said something months after they moved in that stuck with everyone who eventually heard this story. She said people keep asking her how it feels to live in an old ambulance, like it should feel strange or sad. She said it does not feel like either. She said it feels like the first place in a year where nobody can tell her and Derek to sleep in different rooms. Derek does not talk about it in those terms. He talks about compressors and battery isolators and door seals, the same way he has talked about ambulances for 9 years. But when someone asks him why he chose to fix the air conditioning before he fixed anything else, he gives the same answer every time. He says a home is not 4 walls. A home is the first thing that keeps you and the person you love in the same room, safe, at the same time. Rescue 14 did that for 2 people the system had already stopped looking for. If a story like this changed how you see the vehicles you drive past every day, hit subscribe, and the video on screen right now covers a completely different kind of forgotten structure, built by someone the system missed in almost exactly the same way. Click it, and I will see you there.